How many presidents have led all the African countries since independence? Roughly 400. Why am I saying roughly and not exactly? Well, you will find out shortly. The bigger question, though, is this: have these presidents left Africa better off or worse off? Think about that as we journey through these presidencies that have shaped Africa for 6 decades. My name is DJ Bokali, and Africa is my superpower. Welcome to African Awakening, the Pan-African show that's less focused on awakening, uniting, and transforming Africa. Thank you very much for being a part of this community. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And I invite you to go a step further and become a member so that together we can keep building this great continent brick by brick, step by step.
They love me, all my people with me. They love me all.
Since the wave of independence that swept across Africa from the 1950s through the 1990s, Africa has produced just over 400 presidents. Now, the word president here also refers to head of state, and it includes prime ministers and others who at one time or another occupied that head of state seat, irrespective of the title. Before I go on, think of 3 of your favorite presidents, whether they're dead or alive, and share in the comments. Why are they your favorite? What do you like most about them? Do you also think that they had or have certain weaknesses? It's always important to remember that even the best amongst them are still human, and humans are far from perfect. How did these 400 Africans become presidents? One of the greatest fallacies of the Western-style democracy, at least as applied here in Africa, is that people choose their preferred president through the ballot box. Do you think that the people of Equatorial Guinea have chosen Teodoro Obiang Nguema for the last 46 years that he has been president? Do you think they have chosen him? Or that Cameroonians have chosen their president, Paul Biya, for the last 43 years that he too has been president? Incidentally, he's running for re-election later this year at the ripe young age of 92 years. Teodoro Obiang Nguema and Paul Biya have remained presidents through the ballot box. The same way that most of those 400 also became presidents. Others also became president through liberation movements, military coups, transitional governments, and even dynastic succession. One of the most important questions that Africa must urgently ask and answer is this: how exactly should presidents be chosen and held accountable? We must create an Afrocentric form of governance that disables imperial presidencies and gives power back to the people. Africa has seen some remarkably young leaders take power. In 1992, Valentin Strasser of Sierra Leone became the youngest head of state in the world. He seized power in a coup on 29 April 1992 at the age of 25, after overthrowing President Joseph Saidu Momo. He remained head of state until 16th January 1996, when he himself was ousted in an internal coup by his deputy, Brigadier Julius Maada Bio. That means that his presidency lasted 3 years and 8 months. If there are any Sierra Leoneans watching this, please share in the comments about this young president's legacy. More recently, of course, there's Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. He seized power in September 2022 at the age of 34. He's rightly been held as a youthful symbol of defiance against neocolonialism. His leadership is resonating greatly across Africa and the African diaspora in the world. I have done a whole series about Ibrahim Traoré before he became president. If you haven't watched it, you're missing a lot. Make sure that you do. I have left a link in the description below. Let's now move on to the oldest presidents. On this other extreme, Africa has hosted presidents who clung to power into their twilight years. Hastings Kamuzubanda of Malawi, born in 1898, was finally removed from office in 1994 at the age of 96. That's right, 96. He was a lifelong bachelor. We have already talked about Cameroon's Paul Biya, who is still president at 92 years old. Zimbabwe's former president, Robert Mugabe, was 1 year older, 93, when he was forced to resign after the military intervened. Tunisia's then president, Beji Essebsi, was 92 years old when he died in office in 2019. These elderly rulers illustrate the phenomenon of gerontocracy, dominated by leaders far older than the median age of their citizens. For these elderly leaders still in office, let's remind them of the words of Tanzania's past president, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, who rightly said that beyond a certain age, you're no longer in optimal condition and should simply pave way for the younger leaders to take over. That's why Nyerere himself stepped down in 1985 when most of the country was still clamoring for him to continue being president. He was only 63 years old at the time. He lived until 14th October 1999, passing away at 77 years old. This means that he lived for 14 more years after retiring from office, and he did a great job for Africa at the time as an elder statesman. We have already talked about the longest serving presidents, Teodoro of Equatorial Guinea and Biya of Cameroon. On the other extreme is the other Traoré, Honore Traoré. Many people don't know that in October 2014, this guy, Honore Traoré, was president of Burkina Faso for 1 day. He was head of state from 31st October 2014 to 1st November 2014. That's it, 24 hours, and he was gone. In so doing, he became the shortest serving head of state in Africa. Globally, that honor or dishonor, depending on how you look at it, belongs to Mexico's Pedro Lascurain, who served as president for just 45 minutes on February 19, 1913. Back to Africa. There are numerous examples of such acting presidents who occupied the top seat for a mere few days or weeks. These fleeting reigns reflect the turbulence of African politics in the post-independence decades. This turbulence was often engineered or sustained by the West, especially France and America. Let's now talk about the women who shattered that glass ceiling. This hasn't happened in America yet, but it has happened here in Africa. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia became Africa's first elected female president in 2006, serving for 2 terms and earning a Nobel Peace Prize. Joyce Band of Malawi also broke this ceiling. More recently, Namibia's president, Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah, has shattered that ceiling. There have been other female presidents, although their constitutional roles were ceremonial. There are Amina Garib Fakim of Mauritius and Sahle Work Zewde of Ethiopia. These female presidencies have highlighted both the promise of gender inclusion and the persistent hurdles that women still face in African politics. Now, when you look across decades, patterns emerge. The 1960s and 1970s were marked by lots of coups, soldiers replacing founding fathers in the name of stability. We now know that many of those coups were actually engineered or supported by the West, mostly France and also USA. The 1980s saw presidents for life solidifying their grip, while the 1990s ushered in multi-party reforms, though often imperfectly. In the 2000s and beyond, dynastic politics took root in countries like Togo with the Gasimbe family and in Gabon with the Bongo family. On a brighter note, Tanzania's fifth president, John Pombe Magufuli, provided a breath of fresh air when he took over as president and prioritized the citizenry until his untimely demise in 2021. Let's now go to the most popular presidents, your favorite presidents. In the last 2 years, I have conducted several polls on this issue. The heads of state, dead or alive, who are always in the top five are these ones: Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Nelson Mandela, Ibrahim Traoré, and Kwame Nkrumah. Of course, there are numerous different favorite presidents for different people, but the common denominator in all these favorite presidents is their servant leadership. They don't suffer from the big man syndrome like most of the other presidents. That is a quality that all African presidents must have, all of them. If they are not transformative servant leaders, don't vote them in or vote them out. And whatever you do, hold your president accountable. Don't just give them a free pass, however much you like them. In fact, the more you like a president, the more you must hold them accountable. Taken together, Africa's presidents embody the continent's political journey since independence. A journey that has been filled with triumphs, tragedies, resilience, and renewal. But one question looms: have these presidents left Africa better off or worse off? The hard truth is that despite moments of progress, Africa today still suffers from widespread poverty, recurring conflicts, and deep inequality, often more entrenched than in the 1960s. This reality raises uncomfortable questions, not just about the presidents themselves, but also about the Western style democratic systems through which most of them were elected or legitimized. If leadership is meant to uplift nations, then the mixed legacies of Africa's presidents suggests that neither the men and women at the helm nor the imported democratic frameworks they operated under have delivered fully on the continent's promise. But there is hope. The African people, we the people of Africa, can and must ensure that our presidents are transformative servant leaders. We must ensure that happens.